Hopefully everybody. Okay, we're live. We had a lot of difficulties. We had to switch platforms, and it means we had to create an entirely new chat. So hopefully everybody will be able to jump over and find that. And we'll mute that. And you know what? While I'm talking, if anybody wants to throw the link, well, if anybody can find the link to the new one and post it up over in the old chat, that would really help. I think I can probably find it. Let me look. Live. Yeah, we can click right there. You got it? I just got it. Look at you guys going. Awesome. All right. Well, we're back in business. It is it's only 9:15. We're not too late tonight. Gotta love those technical difficulties that everybody has. So I'm gonna jump out of the old chat and we'll jump back over here to the new one. Let me click over on that so I can get my pop-up chat. There we go. Let's pop that out, bring it over here so I can see what everybody's saying on the internal and the external. That's the wonders of modern technology, how fast we can recover from all this. So, all right, we've got a lot of people that are making the jump over to the right feed now. New York Outcast ended up being first. Kinky Sphincter's out there showing the Jumbo. What else we have? Clint Taurus, still my favorite screen name ever. Patriot in the Dark is out there. Trauma Jock, what's up? Snob's out there. My beautiful bride is out there, and she's off to my left, holding it down in the chat. You guys know how this works. She does the typing, I do the talking. Mystic Guns is out there. Net Flutter, cool. Rich White and Seven Wonders, Two Live Moo, Mike. So we will get this rolling. I had everybody in the Tennessee Gun Guys out there. I had everybody that is in the panel now in the other panel ready to go, except Squib. So hopefully we will see him maybe join up after a while, but I know it doesn't work as well when he's at work on his phone. So we will hopefully see him back in here. We'll let everybody say hi real quick. And Travis has one thing that we're going to talk about a little bit before we jump into the night's topic. So real quick here, we will let Rich White say hello.
Hello.
Short and sweet. Kingpin, you're next. That's true. I did.
Good evening, Sandy. Good to see you.
Yeah. Good to hear you anyway. We've got now, this is a new name for the chat, but he did join us last week. He's just got a cool screen name now. So everybody's favorite on-scene true blue American patriot, we've got Duke Liberty. There should be fanfare for that name every time we say it. So what's up, Mr. Duke Liberty?
Chat right now?
You're in. We're live, dude. And it's time to say hello. Maybe not. Okay.
I don't see him.
Yeah, I don't see him. I heard him.
I don't see him at all.
I heard him. There was a...
May not have given... Well, he might not have... We weren't on StreamYard last week, so he may not have given his camera access either. Nope. He's gone. All right. Well, last but not least, we'll let you say hello, and then I'm just going to let you take the floor for a little bit. Talking about that link that you had sent me tonight. So Travis P11.
Yeah. Hey, this is Travis P11. Check out my channel over on YouTube, and also I got a little podcast we do on Monday nights called Caliber Corner at 6 o'clock Central Time. Make sure you check it out. 7 o'clock East Coast Time. Sandhills, thank you for the invite, man. I appreciate it. What this is this was something that actually popped up in the news last week in Nebraska. So if you're a Nebraska resident and you value your child's safety, I'd really like to see you guys call your representatives and let them know that you support the bill that was recently introduced by Senator Steve Halloran that would allow school boards to determine whether or not if a district would allow teachers to conceal carry in the classroom. Now, they got a few stipulations on it. And the thing is, this bill has been introduced by various representatives over the last, I don't know, 3 or 4 years, it seems like it pops up and then it gets tabled in committee and it dies out or whatnot. But I mean, it was kind of interesting is there was a little social media poll that was done recently by this news channel, okay, local 4 Hastings, Nebraska news. And 62% of the people that were polled would be in favor of allowing teachers to conceal carry in the classroom. And I know we've talked about this before. We've gone over it ad nauseum, but the fact that we've got a bill, it looks like there's some support for it, if you do, again, would like to see your children have some form of protection in the classroom, for God forbid any kind of a gunman or whatnot, it's always a good idea to let your representatives know that you're in favor of bills like this. So that's it. That's my little 2 cents worth. I want to get that out there. So.
No,
there's one interesting thing. There is some opposition from the NSCA, and I'm not surprised by that because they don't take a pro-firearm stance. And there's an interesting quote from one of the members of the board that is also an educator too. And where's his little quote at? He says that he doesn't know of any teachers who would want to carry on campus. So maybe I need to give this guy a call and just let him know that there is, in fact, a Nebraska teacher out there that would be willing to carry on campus. And there's actually more than just me. Okay, there are others. So anyway, just want to get that out there. So good stuff. We can get it. We can make it happen. Other states do it. It's not an issue. I don't see why it's got to be any different for us here in Nebraska.
Yeah, he's in. Yep.
Right.
Yeah, she's just making sure that Squid.
No, it's all good.
So.
Yep.
All right. Yeah, that is awesome. So those of you who are in Nebraska, or if you know somebody in Nebraska, then please let them know about this. In fact, I bet I can find, where did that go to?
See, I got the link for the article if you just want me to put it on the internal chat.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you want to share it with anybody or whatever.
You can just put it over there on the external if you want to, Travis. But
yeah, I'll go do that right now. They do make some important points. So we could definitely use more funding for more counseling and therapy services for high school students too. I don't disagree with that as a teacher myself. I mean, we do need more help for these kids than what we can currently offer. We're doing a lot, but we can do more. The funding is there. But this is a whole separate issue, in my opinion. And this is, it's its own thing. It's about protection of the kids in the classroom. So
absolutely.
All right, people. Do it for the children.
The link is there in the YouTube chat for the article from KSNB, which is Hastings, I believe, Hastings, Nebraska news station. But if you want to grab that link and share that all across the state, that would be amazing. So we can spread the word. And please, all of you in Nebraska, please contact your state senator and let them know that this is a good thing and that they should definitely vote yes for something like this. So, all right, I do believe we have got Duke Liberty back with us now, and it sounds like he can hear us. So we will let you say hi real quick if you can hear me.
I can hear you loud and clear.
Right on. That is a cool avatar.
Yeah, squirt gun that shoots jelly.
We all need a squirt gun that shoots jelly. That I don't know. I don't even consider that to be a misfit toy because that is like the coolest toy on the island.
Oh hell yeah,
bar none. So glad that you could make it. And we got Squib back in here. He got his link. Didn't realize that you didn't grab it off the other chat there, Squib. So I apologize for making you fashionably late, but better late than not at all.
I was wondering who was running this chat, you or Night Strike?
Ouch. I don't know which one of us you just offended right there, but I'm pretty sure it was Night Strike. You should probably apologize to him. All right. Well, we will get this rolling. I want to have some fun tonight. We've talked about some kind of heavy topics, and I know that's what I like to do sometimes, but
real quick, if you want something fun, there was an interesting development in the Virginia thing that was brought to our attention during Night Strike show. West Virginia has offered all sanctuary counties membership in the state of West Virginia. It's an actual resolution that came out of the West Virginia legislature. I just posted it out there in the YouTube chat for anybody who wants to look at it, but it's an actual thing. West Virginia is offering for all the sanctuary counties and sanctuary cities to become part of West Virginia.
That is pretty cool.
And apparently they just passed the no guns on Capitol grounds in Virginia. So you might be getting some new neighbors, Rich.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I heard and read that too. So, all right. Well, we're not going to get into the heavy topics. And like I have said before, there are tons of places where you can go and have the discussions and be in a live chat talking about the week's current events. And we like to do other things with our time slot here. So tonight we're going to have some fun. And I'll tell you what started this for me. And I just made this decision here on it was Sunday, I believe, or it was last night. But we'd been watching some TV shows, and sometimes most of the time I know that I drive my wife nuts. Typical gun guys and gals. I mean, we watch a show, we see them do something with the firearm that is completely not realistic, and we always call them out on it, right? That gun can't do that, or you can't fire that many times without a reload, or whatever the case is. So we were watching this last week's episode of Chicago PD, and we like the show as all of the three Chicago Med, Fire, and PD, they all tie together, and the characters kind of cross over, and some of them even cross over with Law and Order. So it's a cool universe. I think it's Dick Wolf that created all those, but it also isn't. It's an NBC show, and sometimes they misrepresent firearms, especially the lethality, I think, of certain firearms. And the biggest gripe, and I'm just going to start this off. The biggest gripe lately on that show was this last week's episode. They had a plot line where some of the local drug dealers had gotten a hold of a part of a shipment of military weapons. I don't know if there was an army shipment or a base or something had gotten robbed, and some all they called them was just MK18s. And I wasn't even sure what it was. I had to do a little research. So somebody tell me if I'm mistaken here, because that could change the nature of my rant just a little bit. But the way I understand it, the MK18 is just an upper, right? It's built by Daniel Defense, and it's a 10.5-inch barrel, 10.5-inch barreled upper for an M4, the way I understand it. And of course, Uncle Sam doesn't have to worry about tax stamps for SBRs. And we all know the advantages of the shorter barreled rifles when it comes to urban warfare, clearing buildings, rooms, things like that. I understand how the close quarter battle, it definitely is better to have the shorter barrel. Now, the TV show made this thing appear like, they even called it at one point the street sweeper, and it can take out a whole block in 10 seconds. And I'm just, by that time I've Googled this thing, right? I know what it does. You put it on an M4 lower, that means it's chambered in 5.56 NATO, which means it's a short barreled M16 is all it is, or a short barreled M4 rather. And so at one point they're going after, these bad guys. They go into this house or this apartment, and the dude comes around the corner, opens fire on him in full auto, which an M4 would be, or could be. And it's shooting through the sheetrock wall. And I swear those holes were at least a half inch, probably closer to an inch in diameter. Now I'm thinking, if this is a stolen military shipment, then it's probably loaded with either green tip or at least full metal jacket rounds. These things aren't going to blow big holes in sheetrock that I would think. And I've seen them do other things with AR-15s or that style rifle before, where they're punching holes in the side of a vehicle that are that big. I mean, it's blatantly misconceiving, and all it's doing is adding fuel to the fear-mongering fire, in my opinion. So that is kind of the straw that broke the camel's back. And I said, yeah, we're definitely going to have this chat about this tonight. And we're going to talk about all the shows and the movies that completely get it wrong. And then we kind of want to end on a high note. We'll switch gears. We'll talk about some of the shows and movies that actually get it right. So I've thrown out my first rant. We can just kind of go around the horn. as much as we can here. If everybody else has, a couple shows or movies or anything in particular that they want to, at least start off with, and we'll just kind of see where the discussion goes and what rabbit holes we can find to go down. But Rich, we'll start with you. So anything that you want to bring up that was actually blatant misuse or complete misrepresentation that you can think of? And we can talk generally too, if we want to just talk about the sound of a Glock with the hammer being cocked back. But
first, I just want to say that if they're calling that a street sweeper next show, they're looking for a lawsuit. There's a South African company that used to make a drum-fed shotgun that was called street sweeper.
Yes,
and it was a piece of crap. So they might be looking to recoup some of that money by suing NBC at this point.
Yes, well, and I'm thinking that's what they called it. Or not, maybe it wasn't the street sweeper, maybe they said it's a street sweeper. I'm sure that they did a little research to avoid the lawsuit, but anyway,
a copyright lawsuit, I'm telling you.
Well, let's hope.
It'd be really funny if they were to put that clip up on YouTube and the company would copyright strike them.
Oh my god, that'd be hilarious.
I tell you what, if I could do it without a copyright strike, I would have just found that clip and played it for everybody. But
company sues a studio for portraying their farms in a negative light.
At some point we really should look into the merits of that. I think. Yeah. I mean, honestly, they're making all of us look bad. And they've had other storyline arcs on that show where they were looking for some illegal firearms and they ended up going over to Indiana to a gun show because that's where you get all the bad stuff that shows up in Chicago. It's all coming from Indiana. Never mind the fact that Indiana does not have the crime issue that Illinois does, but somehow the guns that the bad people in Indiana that are getting guns, they're smart enough to drive out of their own state before they use them, to commit crimes. So, whatever.
It's all roll call's fault. I mean, come on.
Yeah,
he works at a gun shop in Indiana.
Everything's roll call's fault. Honestly, I mean, we could probably trace anything. Climate change is probably roll call's fault.
Well, that's only after he's had a few.
Definitely
beers.
Consumes all that IPA. He's drinking up all the water. So Jeez.
Oh, we should stop. He's not here to defend himself tonight. So, you know what? That's even more fun. Let's just keep going. So, all right. Well, Rich, do you have anything that you want to lead off with as far as misrepresentation or misuse of guns? Even not necessarily just the firearm itself, but maybe shows where they're terrible about flagging everybody or something like that. That again, things that really make us as gun people upset when we see it.
I don't know where to start.
Right.
Sheesh. I mean, how many times on Miami Vice did we see Sonny Crockett pull from that Miami Classic and just flag everybody that was all the way around and getting to the target with his finger on the trigger? I mean,
yeah, but that was a Bren 10, so I mean, come on, you can do that if you.
There were other times where it was in 1911 too, where he switched guns from one season to the next.
Okay.
There were a few different guns that he actually used on that show.
I just remember the Bren was.
Yeah, the Bren
got a big shot in the arm from him using it, but
yeah, the Bren 10, where the 10 millimeter in that thing was so unpleasant that they switched it to using 45 blanks instead of the 10 millimeter.
Wow.
Well, they were using full on 10 millimeter blanks. They weren't the FBI standard 10 millimeters. These were the full power original loading on them. And
oh wow!
And Don Johnson said that his hand would be so sore after going through a day of having to shoot that thing because of the reshoot a scene and reshoot a scene and reshoot a scene over and over and over again, that his hand would literally be red. He would have to soak it in ice when he got home because of how hot the blanks were from that. So they cut them back down to where it was actually where they switched it to being a 45 instead of the 10 millimeter.
Wow. All right. All right. Well, we'll move over then to Kingpin. and see if you have anything that you want to throw out there to start the discussion off.
But as far as TV shows and movies, my favorite show is Hogan's Heroes. And they always have their finger squeezing the trigger. Like you can see the tenseness in their hands, and they always point the guns at each other. And it really drives me crazy when they do that. They flag each other with their finger on the trigger all the time.
It's been a long time since I saw an episode of Hogan's Heroes.
And then as far as misconception, probably now not in a comedy bit. So don't think of like Police Academy and Hooks, but think of like a legitimate show where the guy shoots the gun and the bad guy flies like 10 feet in the air.
Yeah.
But the good guy stands still, and it doesn't make him, recoil whatsoever.
A really good example of that, I just here not too long ago watched, not for the first time, but watched again, Open Range with Kevin Costner and Robert Duvall. And there's a few people that Kevin Costner shoots with his, I wasn't paying attention to what he was shooting, but I'm just going to assume it was probably an 1873 Colt, but either way, this is either a 44 or a 45 caliber revolver that he's shooting people with. And yeah, they're flying off their feet, flying backwards. One guy, he shot him in the chest with one round, and it blew him back through the outhouse wall or the plank wall of the building that he was in the alley of. So I'm with you on that one. And we've probably seen, all of us seen more shows than we can count that have had that happen. But in reality, for those of you that aren't aware, that's not how it works, because Newton's, I don't remember which law, but the law that says for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. If that bullet was coming out with enough force to knock somebody off of their feet, it would do the same thing to the person that was holding the gun that shot it. So
I guess my last one would be, can every stormtrooper be that bad of a shot?
well, they're all clones of the same guy.
See, I didn't know that, so I guess they could be.
Yeah. Now,
If
in
you go
the
back to
later
original
trilogy,
Stormtroopers-
they're not all clones, and
Yeah.
a lot of those actually can shoot though.
Yeah, even in the original source material, they weren't all clones, because there were people that would be what's it called?
Indoctrinated.
Yeah, no, not indoctrinated. They were
Brainwashed, basically.
conscripted. They would be, the Empire would go and just mass conscription of people into the
Which,
Imperial Army and Navy and the Stormtroopers.
by the time A New Hope happened, that would actually make some sense, because the original Stormtroopers were the clones, but we're talking 17 years between episode 3 and episode 4. So that would make some sense, because at that point they'd have run out of some clones, and there is an actual war going on, so they'd have had to replace them somehow. So yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, that's why if you look at like in A New Hope, not all the Stormtroopers were the same height. They had a height requirement to be in the Stormtroopers, which is why Leia says to Luke, "Aren't you a little short to be a Stormtrooper?" But that's because of the height requirement, not because they were all clones
Right.
at that point.
Yeah, that makes some sense. But yeah, I mean, good point, Kingpin. They're the only good thing that's come of that, besides the fact that, of course, none of the people that we actually care about in Star Wars ever took a blaster bolt to the chest, so that was good. But the best part of that is just the complete goldmine of memes today that are, about stormtroopers that can't hit anything. It's not unusual to open up Facebook and see another one come through on any given day. So they're still going. It's really cool. I like it. Because they're stormtroopers. They're faceless. We can make fun of them. It doesn't matter.
The universe works itself out.
Yes.
And there's a web page, I forget what it was. They listed some of the people that have played stormtroopers over the years. There are some big name stars that run underneath some of those helmets.
Mm-hmm.
Like in not
episode
the
7
most recent no, not this one. The one before that, the prequels. Daniel Craig was one of the stormtroopers.
No, that wasn't the prequels. That was episode 7. That was The Force Awakens.
Was it The Force Awakens?
Yep. When Rey is when Rey is locked into the whatever that chair or table thing is that she's locked into when they're trying to interrogate her, and she uses the Force for the first time to convince that stormtrooper to let her out. Okay. That is Daniel Craig.
That was Daniel Craig. Okay,
yep.
that must have been a little bit of a spoiler then, because the article I read was actually dated before the movie came out. So I was thinking that was one of the prequel ones. So
yeah, nope. That was the Force Awakens, but he was the First Order trooper that let her out and gave her his gun.
Yeah, if you go back to the original trilogy, Harrison Ford actually played 2 parts of Star Wars. He was Han Solo, but he was also a stormtrooper in one scene.
Really, I didn't know that part either. Other than when him and Mark Hamill were wearing the armor for the.
Yeah, you remember the originals were on a regurgitate some of the actors that were in the movies to put on stormtrooper costumes because you couldn't tell it was them anyway. Or some of them were the Tusken Raiders. Some of them played Tusken Raiders. Some of them played stormtroopers.
Oh, I'm sure because a lot of them are just extras, so that's really cool. That's just like the scene that they left in the movie, partly because they didn't have enough money to keep doing reshoots. Was the opening scene when the stormtroopers first come onto the Tantive 4, when the guy hits his head on the door coming through. Is
that realism too? I mean, things like that would happen. I mean,
those guys now. That opening scene, those stormtroopers could hit, and then we didn't see it, but when Obi-Wan and Luke and the droids go back and find the Jawas that were killed, and Obi-Wan says the blasters are too precise for sand people. So they did kind of indicate that stormtroopers maybe were some decent marksmen at some point. So maybe there were some good ones, but apparently you didn't have to be a good shot to be a stormtrooper. So
yeah, but weren't the sand people like really, really primitive and just like to beat people with sticks and rip off their arms and stuff?
Yes, they were. They were.
Weapons were modified Mo's Nagants, right?
No, that was the same, right? The stormtroopers used this. I mean, the sand people used
Tusken Raiders or whatever, sand people. Or
the sand people, they use the same rifle that the Mandalorian uses.
Only really, I never paid much attention to it.
I thought it was the modified.
I do know that
it's the same base rifle. I mean, they changed the front end on it, but if you remember the scene where the sand person was getting ready to snipe on Luke, and the other one puts his arm on his shoulder, but basically tell him not to.
I'll have to go back and rewatch that now.
The exact same base rifle that was used to make the Mandalorians.
Okay. I do know that their whatever that war club or staff or whatever that the guy holds up over his head when they jump Luke and the droids. There's an axe blade on the end of that, and I do know that is made from. Oh shoot, what the heck is it? There's something that it's been repurposed. It was armor off of something, and I mean that's why the blades are super hard and hold an edge, because they're repurposed. They're repurposed armor panels from something, sand crawlers or something like that.
I'll throw my nerd into this. It's called a gaffy stick.
Okay, the gaffy stick. There we go. It looks like a war club to me. But that's because I grew up in the part of the world where there used to be a lot of different tribes of the Sioux Nation running around. So I've seen a lot of different artifacts that look like war clubs to me.
Did the Sioux ride around on banthas?
Yes, but only single file to hide their numbers. Pretty sure they did.
Yeah.
That would mean that the Union soldiers were riding around on dewbacks.
Possibly.
Well, yeah. I mean, what's better than a dewback, to get across the Great American Desert? So.
Yeah, and they don't stink like banthas.
It's true. It's true, but you got to keep them warm because they are warm-blooded or cold-blooded animals. So. Anyway,
a little lethargic at night. And you're on Tatooine. I mean, keeping warm isn't a problem. The place got 2 suns, for crying out loud.
Yeah, but they both set, and I'm sure at night it gets super cold. So, all right. Well, I think we have beat the Star Wars horse enough here. So we will maybe come back to that here after a while. But we're gonna move on and give everybody a chance to talk here tonight. So Travis, we'll move over to you.
Man,
shows that have some blatant disregard for reality when it comes to firearms.
Not just necessarily shows off the top of my head, but just any like Western movie where the cylinder capacity of the revolver exceeds 6, or any of these semi-autos that have like 45 rounds. I mean, a little shout out to John Wick. That movie did a great job at having guns that would malfunction and guns that would run out of ammo, and he would just ditch them as he ran out of rounds for him. He just didn't suddenly produce more and more magazines on himself. One that just really drives me nuts is one of the I eventually quit watching Walking Dead, but Rick Grimes' daughter, they had a scene where she's got a Colt Python, and for being 6, man, she's an amazing shot on a 357 Magnum revolver, because I fired those before and I can't hit the broadside of the barn past 25 yards. She was picking people off across the field. That'd be at least 100 yards away, and she's just taking them out like it's nobody's business. So just the insane accuracy and how easy it is to do headshots under pressure in action movies. It just blows my mind. I'd like to know who they train with. I don't know if that's a tactical response program you can take, or if it's someplace special you can go. But
I don't remember the name of the range, but the chief instructor's name is Jack Wilson. So because he's really good at making those long range shots with a handgun. So
I'm not saying it's not possible, but everybody can do it in the movies. So
that's right. That's right.
And last thing I want to say, last thing real quick, is I would like to see, I noticed that Kevin Sorbo did a movie recently where it was a pro 2A family in a time at SHTF and they have to defend themselves. I would like to see just once in like a TV show or a movie or something where just your average Joe defends themselves with their legally purchased firearm, and that's like part of the movie somehow, some way, shape, or form. And it's not like a shop owner or law enforcement or military. You don't ever get that, the positive use of the self-defense firearm in any kind of media whatsoever, even less when it really happens in real life. I'd like to see that just once in a movie, where somebody just honest to God had to protect themselves and they did it, and they were a law-abiding citizen, and
up until you said law-abiding, I was going to say,
I'm just saying,
if you go back and watch
not
some
a cop
of the,
or a bad guy, or
right, if you go back and watch some of the Death Wish movies, like by the third one, Charles Bronson had rallied that whole apartment building, and they all came out of the woodwork with some firearms and what have you.
He had like a 50 cal from the window.
So that would work, but I'm just saying, people? Like in my lifetime, maybe.
Yeah, but it jammed up on him, and he couldn't get it to work right, so it killed him. But he didn't. Yeah. His buddy did. The guy a floor down or whatever that brought it back from the war and had it hidden in his wardrobe until he just opened up the door and
there you go.
There it is. Was that a 50 or was that an M1919?
I think that was.
I don't know, man. I don't remember. It's been so long since I've seen those movies.
Oh, it was something.
Like I said, in my lifetime, I like to see like just something new in terms of media movie shows where you actually get
that would be great.
Honest to goodness defensive firearm use, and that's why I want to see that movie, The Reliant. I haven't seen it. I know it's just kind of low budget, whatnot, but I think it'd be kind of interesting to see that perspective in a movie for once. So, yep.
Yeah. The only thing is, we all know that's not going to happen because I mean, you'd get completely blacklisted in Hollywood for doing something like that. Mm-hmm. I haven't seen the hubbub, but I do know that apparently Hollywood's mad at Vince Vaughn for something. Yeah. So good old
he met with culture. He met with Trump at the college football championship game, so everybody's throwing a temper tantrum about that.
Oh well, it's Vince Vaughn. He can pretty well do what he wants to anyway. But it's funny because there are a few people that are kind of just established. That you wouldn't expect anything else. Like if that was Clint Eastwood, I don't think that Hollywood would be, in too much of an uproar, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Eastwood's more of a liberal than what I think he is, but I'm pretty sure I read a quote from him that said his idea of gun control is if there's a gun, he wants to be the one in control of it. So I think that he's a gun guy, but it's funny because there are so many people out there in Hollywood that are closet pro 2A people, but they, in order to make a living doing what they do, they can't tell anybody. They can't let anybody know. Just like being a closet conservative in Hollywood. So it's sad that just because you believe that, you know, people should have individual liberties and should be able to exercise them as they see fit, it's sad that that can cost you a career.
Yeah, and what's crazy about the Vince Vaughn thing is they're throwing a fit about him meeting with Trump. Meanwhile, he's not closeted at all about being a Second Amendment supporter and being conservative and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
The one thing they throw a fit about it, it's not that he likes guns, no, it's because he showed Trump's hand at a football game.
Yeah, it is kind of dumb, but then it just kind of goes with everything else that we see and hear from them. Everything's kind of dumb when you're talking about that group. So
yeah,
it's bad enough that a comedian from England can completely rip on them, and he's not even one of us. He's still one of them, but you know, they just think, oh, it's funny, it's Ricky, whatever, haha. You know, and he doesn't get canceled for calling them all out. So
yeah, he's one of them to an extent because he doesn't think he literally, legitimately does not think that they should be pushing their views on others the way they do. He has said this in interviews,
yes,
even before going into the Golden Globes. He does not like when they get up in front of people and start running their mouths. He honestly believes that they just need to go do their jobs and shut up.
Who else was it? Alice Cooper, I think, that said the same thing, that you know, you're a celebrity, you're a musician, you're an actor, whatever. That doesn't mean that you get to tell people how to live their life. So that was kind of cool. I think it was Alice Cooper that said that. Real quick, we've got a super chat out there from Kinky Sphincter. You see how they treated Chris Pratt for wearing a "Don't Tread on Me" shirt? Yes. Although he's still Star-Lord, so what are they going to do? And he's one of those guys that I think is going to be okay in the end, because I guess I haven't heard much about him completely getting canceled, but he's also got a famous wife, so I don't think they're going to hurt for money. But plus, every time that I watch any of the Guardians of the Galaxy movies or Infinity War or Endgame on any streaming service, I think he gets a cut. So that's kind of cool. Tom Heyer out there in the chat says there's a good picture of Hillary Duff leaving the gun store with good trigger discipline, even carrying the case. I've seen that. She's carrying a Glock case. No, did anybody ever confirm whether or not there was a Glock in it, though, or was it just a case? Clint says Alice Cooper's a longtime Republican. Cool.
Yes, he is.
What's up, Ohio 45 ACP? We see you out there. Glad you stopped in for a second.
And speaking of Alice Cooper, did you ever hear the story about when Elvis told him to point a pistol at him or a revolver at him? Okay, Alice Cooper was going to this party at this hotel in Vegas. This is when Elvis was doing the Vegas shows, right? Doesn't know who's hosting it. He walks in, goes up the elevator, gets off the elevator, walks into the apartment. It's Elvis's apartment in Vegas. And you're like, somebody he knows comes up to him and says, "Hey, come here, come into the kitchen. Somebody wants to meet you." So he goes into the kitchen, and there's Elvis standing there in one of his sequin bodysuits, standing around talking to everybody. And he's like, hey, man, come here. I want to talk to you. And he's like telling him about how he likes me and everything. He's like, hey, you know what? I'm going to show you something. Pulls out his revolver, the one he always carried, the one with the mother of pearl handle and everything. The one that they had on Sons of Guns, if you remember, that Joe Perry was trying to buy. It was that revolver.
Okay.
He empties it, hands it to Alice Cooper. He's like, point that gun at me. And Alice Cooper's like, well, wait, what? He's like, point the gun at me. See, Alice Cooper didn't know that Elvis was a superior martial artist. I mean, Elvis was a practicing martial artist almost his entire career, right? So he points the gun at him. He's like, next thing I knew, I'm looking up at the ceiling. I didn't even see Elvis move. He just hit me so fast and got me on his butt so quickly, I didn't even know what hit me.
That's awesome. No, I did just watch here not too long ago. He was on, or he wasn't obviously, but Elvis's guns were on an episode of Gun Stories, and somebody on that episode told the story of Elvis going to the White House because he wanted to meet President Nixon and give him a gun. And how many people besides Elvis can walk up to the White House with a gun in a presentation box and get in and make it to the Oval Office and present it to the president?
Yeah, at least since Lincoln was killed anyway. Before that,
right?
That's a pretty good point.
I mean, it's not like he was watching a play in a theater or driving in a Ford car. So, still, but well, and that was post Kennedy too. So, and I don't think anybody but Elvis could have possibly gotten away with that. So, all right, moving right along. Let's get through everybody here before we run out of time here. So, Mr. Liberty, anything you want to throw out there for misuse?
So the scene in Commando when he goes to the military supply shop and goes in the back room and finds all the guns, that stuff, just the accessibility of guns like that, full autos, just sitting in the back of some military supply store.
Now, keep in mind that he had to go behind the counter and find the special button that opened up the wall. I mean, those weren't just out in full view, but he knew they were there.
He did. Stuff like that. I mean, gosh, we all wish it could be the truth. But like, I have a big problem with going back to The Walking Dead with what Travis said. The no optics on like M4, M16 models, and they're just shooting at people looking at a front side post. That drives me crazy.
The dust covers are usually up.
Yeah.
Just watch that, how many dust covers are up, and they've been in the middle of a gunfight and their dust covers closed on their ARs.
Yeah, you know what? I just looked it up. That gunshot, those guns being in that Army Navy store is plausible. That was in '85. That was before the ban.
Well, that's true.
The tax stamp. They could have had all those guns in that shop.
I mean, that doesn't stop, me at 7 years old thinking that's going to happen at my local Army Army surplus store when I'm going in there trying to find a secret door.
That doesn't stop me at 7 years old wishing that I had an Army surplus store close by to even go into. Yeah, even just to get the cool stuff like the swim fins and the vest and BDUs and all that. I guess back then they weren't BDUs; they were fatigues.
Yeah, none of the Army Navy stores when I was a kid had guns in them. They all had the cool uniforms and stuff, but they didn't have any of the guns in them.
No, because most of them were FFLs.
They had some sweet knives in them.
But, and just the oversight bothers me on like a show like The Walking Dead. That's like that at a time that was the biggest show ever. And you're telling me you don't have a gun expert on hand that can like check this stuff and say like, "Hey, Rick, point your pistol up." Things like that.
That's a very good point, because I've often wondered about that. How do you make a TV show? How do you make a movie, especially like a feature film in Hollywood? How do you make something like that and not think that you should pay somebody to come in and advise you on what's realistic? I mean, granted, maybe they could get away with it more in the 80s when, Stallone and Schwarzenegger and Chuck Norris were, one-man armies. But today, in this day and age, people don't want that kind of fantasy anymore. That's why Schwarzenegger made Last Action Hero and True Lies to make fun of himself in his old movies even. And nowadays, I think that realism is what really sells. I mean, how many people have talked about movies like 13 Hours or even Saving Private Ryan, that opening scene where people have said that is a pretty good representation of what Omaha Beach actually was like. There's so many movies that are out there and they're talked up because of the realism and because this is actually what it was really like, or the best representation that you can put on the big screen. That's what people want today. So how do you get it that wrong when people want it right?
Right. It's like Dale Dye. He's the one who trained the actors for Saving Private Ryan. He's the same guy who I think trained the Red Dawn crew from the 80s. He put them through a boot camp. So they understood tactics. They understood weapons handling, the basic stuff. And that's why those movies stand up to scrutiny like us, from guys like us, a lot of the time. And I think it's a great thing.
Nope, that was cool. Out there in the chat, Ohio 45 ACP. So that's how his armory works. How does yours open up? Well, I guess the question I have is, what are you talking about armory? Mine doesn't open up. It's on my dresser. So I've said this before. We don't have any little curious fingers in our house. And so the only curious fingers that we have are mine, and mine know how to properly handle a firearm without pointing it at something I don't want to shoot. So we don't have to worry about just leaving them out. So I've usually got them just laying on the dresser. Long guns are usually in a soft case someplace, but we don't have like an actual vault that I have to go hit a button and a special code and the wall opens up, and there's just racks upon racks upon racks of firearms yet. But one day, that's on the bucket list. So one day, that's my goal, is to have something that's worthy of a secret code, and the wall opens up and there's the gun vault. So
we'll just go for one of those concealed carry coffee tables in the meantime.
That's right.
Just as good as anything else.
Double A's asking about the movie Act of Valor. I have not seen that one. So if anybody that has seen it wants to sound off on Act of Valor.
That's the movie that featured the Navy SEALs in it?
Yeah.
Are we thinking of the
is that the one that was
it was filmed with Navy SEALs. They have to go track down a terrorist that's making the ceramic
screenplay
vest.
Was written by Tom Clancy or something, and it was filmed with real SEALs. Is that right?
Yeah, did he write the screenplay for it or not?
He was involved with it. I don't know if he co-wrote it or his name was attached to that movie somehow. I think I did watch that. Now that I say that,
when it first came out, it was pretty interesting because they show a lot of how they do their CQB stuff and how they go in and sweep in an area and extract and stuff like that.
That's pretty cool.
It's worth watching at least once. I mean, I did buy it. I did see it in the theater, and if that's a movie I'm thinking of, because there was also, what was the Mark Wahlberg movie? Oh, Lone Survivor.
Lone Survivor.
Yeah.
That one I'd have to go back and rewatch. I recently bought that from the $5 movie bin at Walmart, but I haven't rewatched it yet. I've only seen it the one time, so I'd have to go back and rewatch that and pay more attention to the tactics and things. Which I don't know military tactics, but at least the fact of whether or not they're pointing their guns at each other. I'd be able to pick up on that.
Trigger
discipline.
Trigger discipline. Yeah.
Things like that. So, sometimes it is nice though when you have those movies that are based on true stories, because I want to say that I remember seeing or reading that Marcus Luttrell was actually involved in the making of that movie. So, I mean, having him on set would definitely be the best option for making sure that it looks not only realistic, but it also tells the story the way that it happened. 13 Hours is another one where over half the days that they were filming, they had at least one of the guys that was actually there in Benghazi on the set, showing them how stuff worked and what they actually did and what they actually said. So that was cool.
To Hell and Back. Can't remember. Audie Murphy played himself.
I didn't realize he made a movie about himself, but that
was the first movie he ever did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, Audie Murphy was. I tell you what, you talk about an American hero, that man.
Yeah.
So, and I don't even remember now. He was he pinned down or behind enemy lines? What was the actual story that happened to him before he came home? I know he fought a tremendous battle completely against all the odds.
So the tank got hit and it was burning, and he ordered everybody back.
I don't know the story off the top of my head. We'd have to look it up, but yeah, it was pretty.
Go ahead, Squib.
They were on some sort of patrol or mission or something like that, and a tank got hit and it was burning, and he ordered everybody back, and he jumped on the back of the tank, and he held off multiple advances by German infantry single-handedly with a 50 cal machine gun on the back of a burning tank for I don't know how long. I don't know how he made his ammunition last, but it was multiple. They would come in. He'd get him to retreat. They'd try again. He'd get him to retreat, and that's all I remember about the story. But it's that selfless act or that lone guy holding back And you know, this a Marine named Smedley Butler did the same thing during the Boxer Rebellion. He held off all these Chinese rebels single-handedly in front of the embassy, I think with a 30 cal machine gun, water-cooled 30 cal machine gun, handheld.
Wow.
Yeah. So this stuff really does happen. It's real acts of valor, but it's also crazy suicidal because you're outnumbered, or you've got a heavy weapon. In Audie Murphy's case, he's standing on a tank that was on fire. Had the ammunition cooked off or something else like that, they would have found pieces of him.
Wow. Well, and for all of those stories of somebody that we know that did that and came home, how many other stories are out there of somebody who sacrificed themselves, but the story never got told, right? I mean, it's just there's so many different stories just from World War II alone of acts of heroism and valor like that. My own grandpa, sometime I'm gonna get all the facts straight and post up a video of my own grandpa. But he received a Bronze Star for something that he did that pulled somebody out of basically German artillery fire. So he, thank goodness made it home to tell that story, but he hadn't really talked about it a whole lot until just the few years before he passed away. So a lot of those stories I know were never told and went with him, but just some of the stuff that he talked about, I mean, I can't wrap my head around what it was like to go there and do that and see the things that he saw before he came back. So my grandpa always lived his life like he was living on bonus time, because he was, when they got ready to ship out and go over to Europe, they all got told they weren't coming home, and they all went anyway. And then he did come home. So he figured that he was living on bonus time that he wasn't supposed to have. So he was kind of a pretty happy-go-lucky guy most of the time. So it was really cool to find out. Unfortunately, I didn't really know all that until my uncle gave his eulogy at the funeral. But I learned a lot that day too. Of just that's why my granddad acted the way that he did, because he didn't think he was coming home. So every day after that was a gift. So that was pretty cool to learn. Clint's out there saying he went and saw 1917 earlier tonight, and it was awesome. I've heard that. I've heard that there's not a lot of actual battle scenes in the movie, but it's a really good movie. So I definitely want to see that. Yeah, AA. 3 of the 6 guys were on set in some combination. At least one of them was on set for over half the days they filmed, 13 hours. I know I've been bragging about it, but Mrs. Sandhills and I actually got to go meet Chris Peranto here a few weeks ago and got a real quick interview with him, invited him on the show. So we'll see if that happens. But that video is up on the channel, so you guys can go check that out too. It was cool to go meet the guy. He was the one that, if you've seen 13 Hours, he was the one that fought the whole battle in cargo shorts the whole night, never had long pants on. So
one of the things that we missed was the box of ammo and the bonfire, and then all the windows in the town get shot out because the bullets start burning.
Oh, come on. It doesn't work that way. Those casings might be going off and hitting windows.
Yeah, it's a possibility. I don't think they're going to break any of them, though.
I think you're probably right. All right, let's come around full circle. And Squib, we haven't given you a chance just to talk about shows and movies that they get it wrong. So we'll give you a chance to talk on your own without chiming in on what we've been saying.
I'll just talk about one movie.
Okay.
It's a movie I like. First off, full disclosure, I like this movie. And I saw this movie in the theater when I was a teenager. So of course I thought
The Wizard of Oz.
In it. What's that?
The Wizard of Oz. Gone with the Wind.
Yeah.
Wait, was it a silent movie?
It was something about some people going to the moon or something.
Okay, I'll let you talk.
It's all right. I couldn't talk over this. I don't know if you hear that. Okay. Yeah. Loud exhaust.
Oh, no.
Whatever. Somebody needs to go to the muffler, man. Yeah.
You.
Okay. So I saw this movie when I was a teenager, so I thought some of the stuff that was done with the guns was real at the time. After I was in the military, I realized some of the stuff was not. So the movie is Predator. So for those of you who saw Jesse the Body's character, Blaine, he had the minigun. Now, before somebody goes, yeah, it's an M134. No, it's a GAU-2 Bravo. I all the time I hear people, M134 is GAU-2 Bravo, and then after that it was a GAU-17. I don't know where this M134 stuff come from. I guess it's because I'm an old dog. But you can hand hold one of those things. It's not that heavy. Recoil, you could probably manage it. FPS Russia, before he went to prison, went overseas and rented one and shot one, and there's footage of him shooting it. But what you don't see in the video is all the equipment it takes to run the gun. It's not that he couldn't carry the gun, and the backpack he carried was similar to a backpack that SEALs used in Vietnam to carry ammunition that they fed into M60 machine guns, which fired at a much slower rate than a minigun. So he could have carried the ammo, but he wouldn't have carried enough ammo to shoot more than a few seconds. And all the support equipment to make the gun run weigh so much and are so bulky, there's no way somebody can carry one of those. You could use one from a fixed position or mount it on a vehicle or aircraft or something like that, but there's no way you could carry everything you need to get the gun to shoot, and there's definitely no way that he would have been able to carry enough ammunition to cut all those trees down. That's a lot of ammo.
Yeah,
that's a lot of ammo.
There was an interview with Ventura himself right after the movie came out. He said he would have had maybe at most in that backpack 2-3 seconds worth of ammo, and it would have been empty.
Yep. See, it had one pistol grip on it, and a real GAU-2 or GAU-17 has two grips on it. The grip on your left is guns low. That's 21 rounds a second. So you pull the trigger, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then you pull the trigger on the right and count to 5. And by then, you're up to 42 rounds a second. When you let off the right. Count to 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then you let off the left, and then it cycles down. Without both triggers, you're either going to be shooting at high speed or low speed. I would imagine that if you were to make this in real life, you would want it shooting on low speed. If you go too fast with that, or you try to go to high speed right away, you'll jam the gun. You will jam the Gatling gun. And So I
do know that even the gun that they use to film that off camera is the battery that runs it, because he didn't lug that around. But
he uses a 28 volt aircraft battery if you didn't have a generator producing 28 volts DC.
Yep. So they either whatever it was, whether it was a generator, I think it was the battery, but that was on the ground next to him. They just never put it in the frame.
Right.
So it looks like he's lugging everything to run that gun. But yeah, those are electric powered. So,
right. It's electric to spin it, but it is percussion. It does use a firing pin. It does hit a primer. It does strike a primer. So you could manually spin it and shoot a hole through your foot.
Right. But an electric motor is what spins the barrels.
What spins it. Right.
Yep.
And there's actually, the battery goes to a control box, which goes up to the saddle that you mount the grips on, and then you mount the gun in there and the feeder and the chute to eject it. It's a big to do, and the ammunition weighs a lot. If we carry the max ammo we could on a Huey for one of the miniguns, 8,000 rounds, it weighed so much that it really didn't have much more. It really couldn't carry too much more. Like you definitely weren't carrying any troops. So that's how much it weighs it down. So it was great for the movie because it looked really cool, but in real life, you can't really effectively do that. The other thing in the movie that wouldn't work out in real life was Schwarzenegger had the M203 grenade launcher. So when you fire an M203, you fire it at an arc. You lob the grenade in, almost like a mortar. He was firing it directly. He was also firing it at close range. The grenades don't arm until they get 40 meters away from you for safety purposes, because if they arm any closer than that, you're going to get hit in the blast too. So using it at close range and firing it directly at somebody maybe with a buckshot round, sure, but any of the explosive rounds or anything like that, it doesn't work that way. So
didn't he also have one of those grenades tied to an arrow that he fired at the Predator?
Yeah, and I've never tried to crack one of those things open, so I'm not exactly sure how the fuse would work on that. If you could rig it to, because I mean, if you take it apart, and I suppose, but I don't want to say, because as many things as we learned, we never learned how to take 40mm grenades and attach them to spears.
Huh. So. Which is weird. I mean, you'd think that would be day one, but yeah, I digress.
Yeah. The one thing that they didn't do in Boot or MCT that I thought they would do was some sort of weapons familiarization with enemy weapons. You think they would at least let us take a crack at shooting an AK or gone over some other Warsaw Pact weapons or something like that, but that wasn't the case.
Think that should be on it. Yeah, you're right.
I would think so too.
Hey,
because
Squib,
you're gonna pick up a Kalashnikov at any battle site where we're fighting an actual war. There's gonna likely be Kalashnikovs there.
That happens now, Squib.
They do that now?
Yeah, it's more recent. Okay, more recent is 2007, 6.
Yeah, I'm an old dog, so that's really recent for me.
It's big. It's a big part of it.
Yeah. They weren't doing that in '99, so I can go that far to tell you they weren't doing it back in '99.
It's not MCT. It's later on. It's like Mojave Viper stuff before you push out. So yep.
Oh, all right. When you're working up. All right. Yeah.
That's cool. That's good to know, because that seems like a skill that everybody should have now, is to be able to pick up at least a Kalashnikov and at least know the basic workings of it, how to take the safe off so it'll fire.
Yeah, and that's just it. I didn't learn how. I never handled one or learned how to work one until I was a civilian later.
Speaking of which, I was visiting a buddy of mine that has a pawn shop today, and as I was talking to him, FedEx delivered a package, and he opened up the box, and it was a PSAK 47. So he pulled it out and handed it to me, and it's got plastic furniture on it. And I said, he goes, have you seen one of these? I said, not from PSA. He goes, yeah, the ones with wood furniture are really nice, and hands me the one with plastic. Oh, gotcha. So at least I have finally gotten to at least touch a PSAK 47. I don't know the differences between all the different manufacturers, so looked like every other AK I've ever looked at. Out there in the chat, Kinky says, the history behind that scene, right? I'm assuming we're still talking about the minigun scene in Predator at this point. Director wanted to show how useless guns are in the real world. He was hardcore anti-gun. So
they mowed down a forest. I mean, you walk them onto target. You walk the rounds onto target. Every fifth round's a tracer, unless you take all the tracers out, which we've done before. At night, if you don't have any tracers in there, they can't see you shooting at them because they don't see the red lines coming down from the sky. So sometimes we take the tracers out of the belts and then relink them. And what you would do is we would bore sight an invisible laser onto the top of on top of the gun, and you would point it at the target, and your night vision goggles would see the laser. You couldn't see it with the naked eye, but you could see it with and it would be somewhat bore sighted to the gun. You'd still have to, at that rate of fire, whether you're using a 50 cal or a minigun or an M60 or something like that, you would still have to walk them onto the target. But with tracers, it's a little bit easier to do that, but then you kind of lose that element of surprise, when everything's dark, because the aircraft ain't flying with its anti-collision lights on or anything else in combat.
Isn't there still some muzzle flash though?
It's not like what you would think. And on the GAU 2 Bravo, it didn't have flash suppressors on there, but on the GAU 17, which was an improvement on the minigun, it added improved drive in the back, and then they put flash suppressors at the end of all 6 barrels.
Okay.
So, I mean, just depending, you're going to hear the helicopter too, but sometimes you're looking up, there's trees or stuff like you can't tell what direction it's coming from.
Well,
So,
it also depends on how many blades are on the rotor. Sometimes, like, is it 5 or 6 blade rotors? It disperses the sound enough. It's hard to localize the sound anyway.
Right. When we were in Washington, D.C., the Capitol Police were flying overhead with a Huey, but I didn't recognize it as a Huey at first because we only had 2-bladed ones, and they're loud. And this was a 4-bladed one, and it was a lot quieter. Mm-hmm. And I was like, that looks like a Huey, but it don't sound like a Huey. And yeah, I think Rich had to point that out to me that no, it's a Huey. It was a Bell 412, I think. So,
that's cool.
Yeah,
that's
but
awesome.
a minigun eats up ammo quickly, really, really fast. The crew chiefs didn't like taking them up, partly because of the rate of fire, partly because of all the extra BS, the weight. You had to mount that control box up in the up inside the cabin of the aircraft, all the wiring, all that crap. And most of the time, they preferred to take up the 50 cal. And honestly, I preferred the 50 cal too. And you might say, but it shoots slower. Yeah, but it's also a harder hitting round. It's a lot easier to walk it onto target. You can carry a lot more ammo, even though it's big and heavy. We would use the 50 cal a lot more than we would use the minigun, actually.
That's very cool. All right, well, let's go back through here. It took us a long time just to go around the horn, so I think we'll just kind of roundtable this part. But there are some shows and there are some movies out there that completely get it right. And one of them got mentioned earlier. John Wick, I mean, all of the actors and all of the stunt doubles trained with Taron Butler on all 3 of those movies. So, and it shows, I mean, you can tell when you watch the movies, you can see the 3-gun training showing up there on the screen. But what was cool was seeing the interview with Taron Butler, where I never thought about it before. He had to train Keanu Reeves and Halle Berry, of course, and a few of the other people. But then he also had to train all of their stunt doubles so that you've got continuity of motions, so that when it's time to do a reload, that if Keanu's face is on screen and he does a reload one way, and then he's got his back to the screen, which is the stunt double, and that guy does a completely different way, people are going to notice that. And so they took the time to not only train the actors, but to train all of the people that were going to be standing in for the actor, so that everything, you had that continuity of not just the manual of arms, but also the motion, and they all went through the same training. So that was kind of cool. I'd never thought about that, never considered that you have to do more than just train the actor until he said that. But he said, yeah, he had to train about a dozen people for those movies altogether, not just the 3 or 4 actors. So that was kind of cool to hear. Any other shows that definitely get it right, and you can tell that the people that are handling the firearms on the show, either they're gun people or they've been trained by actual shooters?
Oh, I don't know if you guys have ever watched Hollywood Weapons. It's where they go and they test Hollywood myths. They had an episode where they centered just on Quigley Down Under, and I
didn't see that one.
I'm glad you're going here, Rich.
They tested different things that they did in Quigley Down Under, and the scene where he shoots the 2 guys at like 600 yards with the sharps and puts a bullet through both guys. They tested that. Not only did what's his name? I can't think of the guy's name now, but he's former special operations.
Terry Shepard.
Yes, thank you. He shot. They thought he missed, so he shot a second time. He actually hit the first time and put the bullet through both guys, and he did the same thing with the second shot as well, through both targets. Remember,
and that was shooting a 45 110.
It was 120 at the 45 120, I think. It was whatever. It was the exact rifle that was used by Tom Selleck.
Okay, so which was a 45 110.
Yep, 45 110.
45 110. Okay. I could remember he was able to do that. I can't remember if it was 600 or 800, but he did it twice with iron sights and put it through both targets with one shot, 1 bullet, 2 targets.
I've not seen that episode. I need to find that one.
Now, I haven't seen that either, but when you said think of a movie or TV show where they got it right, that was the only thing that came to my mind. It is possible to fire sharps, especially in that caliber, with those sights and get that sort of accuracy. And if you notice, he slow fires. He fires slow. Remember one scene, he wipes the sweat from his eyes and takes a breath before he's got the time. He'd rather take his time and hit the target than rush the shot. In the scene where she's fighting off those dingoes, you can actually see her pull the lever, the plunger on the cap and ball revolver because she's reloading it. Mm-hmm. And then when he's in town, he's talking with the shop owner about reloading and cutting down the brass and all this other stuff. So there were some elements of realism in there. Or when can't think of the guy, Alan Rickman's character was out there shooting his revolvers in the morning to clean out the old powder. I heard that Bill Hickok did the same thing every morning, was to clean out the old powder. So it is entirely plausible that the things that were in that movie had some realism to them. And Tom Selleck is a gun guy.
Yes.
They made that gun for him. They measured it to his height, and the company that made that gun will make you a gun, and they will custom make it to fit your stature. They'll even put your initials on it.
That was Birdie, wasn't it?
No, it's Shiloh Sharps.
Oh, Shiloh Sharps. Shiloh Sharps?
No, the name of the company is Shiloh Sharps. It's a reproduction of a Sharps rifle. And they make them in different calibers, and they will customize it for you. They do have a Quigley model, which is, you can have it made just like Tom Selleck's gun if you want, or you can have it made to your height and all that. And you can have it made in whatever caliber you want that they offer, because they offer multiple calibers for it.
Right.
And they do have some other guns. Every now and then I check in on it, and there's always a back order on them. There's months and months wait to get this rifle if you want to have it ordered, and it's very expensive. But it is well made. But you can get the exact same kind of gun that was used in the movie. So there was some authenticity there, and Tom Selleck is a gun guy. I've heard that part of his contract when he does movies and TV shows is that he has the option to keep the guns that he uses as the actor.
He did that with Quigley. That rifle is in Springfield, Missouri at Bass Pro Shops. It's in
Iowa. It's in Iowa.
Then they've moved it since I was there a year and a half ago. Or there's more than one of that rifle in display cases, because they said that was the rifle that he used, or they had more than one of them.
Yeah, now see, I don't know if they had more than one of them, but there's one upstairs at Brownell.
There is a 45 110 Sharps in the display case at in the what do they call that? It's not the NRA museum, but there is an NRA firearms museum at Bass Pro.
Now see, maybe they did have more than one for the movie, because a lot of times they'll have backup
from Tom Selleck's personal collection. Yeah. He didn't donate it; it was on loan.
Okay, the one at Brownell's, I think Pete Brownell owns.
Okay,
but it's supposedly the Quigley rifle, so maybe they made. I don't know.
Well, this was apparently Tom Selleck's personal rifle that was just on loan to them.
Yeah, they probably have more than one.
I would assume so.
It's just like the Clint Eastwood Model 29. Didn't they have like 2 or 3 of those?
Yeah, and there might. Nope, they were now. That same display, because you got to go up the stairs. It's just a long, narrow corridor, and then it's kind of L-shaped, and you make a right turn 90 degrees, and then you keep going, and the back, and there's 2 levels, and there's some steps, but one of those 2 back walls after you make that turn, either the top or the bottom level, is glass on both sides, so you can see them from the outside too. But there's a whole bunch of movie guns. Some of them are rubber props. There's a rubber prop of Chris Kyle's not his sniper rifle, but whatever his automatic that he was carrying in that movie. There's a rubber
M4.
Well, was it an M4? I was thinking it was something a little fancier. Might have just been an M4, but anyway, there's a rubber dummy of that gun, which looks I mean, I had to be told it was rubber. And then I looked closer, and you can kind of see a little bit of the spots where you can tell it was molded. There's a couple molded rubber walkers from Outlaw Josie Wales. There's some other stuff. There's a whole panel though. They're like, 4 foot wide panels or whatever, floor to ceiling. But there's a whole section there that's Tom Selleck guns, the Quigley rifle, some stuff from Monty Walsh, some other Tom Selleck guns are in there. But they all say, each gun says what, where it came from, if it's on loan or if it's owned by the NRA museum or whatever. So it's kind of cool. And then there's a few photographs sprinkled in through there too for a little provenance. But anybody that's close to Springfield, if you get a chance, whip into Bass Pro Shops. But honestly, I mean, it's not just the store. There's enough stuff there that you could take the whole day and probably not see everything there is to see if you go there. They've got a new aquarium that opened up now. I mean, there's all kinds of fun stuff. It's on our list. We're gonna get back down there sometime and take a whole day just to go hang out at Bass Pro Shops, which doesn't sound cool, but it is.
And if you want to see videos with some cool movie guns, Larry Vickers has a series where he went out to the prop house that Larry Zanoff works for.
Oh, cool.
And Larry wasn't in the video, sadly, but one of the guys he works with was, and they were looking at a bunch of the different movie guns that they have there that were used in various movies.
That's awesome. They're not movie guns, but if you want to see a cool collection, and you're in Nebraska, go to Hastings. The basement at Hastings Museum has got a huge collection of firearms down there. There's even a giant, about an 8-foot tall cutaway of a BAR, so you can kind of see the workings of it. I mean, the magazine alone is about that. It's the rifle's on its butt with the muzzle pointing up, and this thing is, it's way bigger than real life. But I mean, the magazine alone is about that tall from back to front. Sitting there, it's just huge. It's really cool to look at though, because you can see all the inner workings of a BAR. So that's pretty neat. I
didn't realize the display was still there. I think I saw it 2 summers ago.
Yeah, no, dude, that's been there for years and years.
Oh, it has been. Okay, because I hadn't been in that museum in probably a decade or more.
I bet I have not been in that museum in 20 years.
Oh, okay then.
So yeah, so it was there then.
It was there 2 years ago.
Actually, back in the late 90s. So yeah, the last time I was there was when it was still an IMAX. It wasn't a super screen, it was an IMAX at the time. And we went and watched like the Great Barrier Reef or something as we were with my family. I lobbied to go to Michael Jordan, which that's the movie I wanted to see on IMAX. So whenever Michael Jordan was in the IMAX that year, that's the last time I was in there. But it's been a good 20 years ago or close to it.
Nice.
So
yeah, I did think of 2 movies real quick, just off the top. Well, I was doing a search on this. I'm like, okay, what movies have I seen? Sicario.
Yes.
That's, I mean, the weapons handling in that is, I don't know about the second one, but the first one is,
I haven't seen
that
number
spot
2.
on. And then just the way that they are with them and stuff. And then even like prepping the gear and everything. And then Heat, the shootout at the end of Heat.
I've not seen Heat. I need to watch that.
Okay. You can watch the final shootout on YouTube. There's like a little 12-minute clip of it that you can watch if you don't want to watch the whole movie, which is shootouts. I mean, the sound, the audio is just unreal because it's echoing and they're shooting downtown.
What was the other one?
Saving Private Ryan, but
no, there was another one that they really got it right. It had Ryan Phillippe in it, and I think Benicio del Toro. Was it called The Way of the Gun or something like that?
Oh yeah. Yep.
I haven't seen the movie, but I do remember now that I think about it. I remember seeing something or reading something one other time where they were kind of talking about some movies get it right, some get it wrong, and I think they said The Way of the Gun. They, other than a few minor details, they pretty well got everything right. But then I turn around and I watch Shooter, the series with Ryan Phillippe, and see all the times that they get it completely wrong. And I'm thinking, apparently he didn't learn anything from that movie. So,
yep,
because they flag each other bad all over in Shooter. It's terrible.
The movie or the TV series?
The TV series. Now I don't remember
the movie.
Bad Gun Handling with the Mark Wahlberg one.
Yeah.
But the TV show that went 3 seasons or something with Ryan Phillippe and Omar Epps. it left a lot to be desired in the way that they treated their guns and pointed them at each other when they shouldn't have. So
when you always give them the reality check and give them the Pulp Fiction, where the John Travolta turns around and blasts the guy in the back seat because he was
set the gun down. It goes off.
yeah, finger on the trigger, pointed the gun at the guy's head, and then they hit a bump, and that was it.
Obnoxious.
Yeah. No, the one where they set it down loaded and it just went off was
Boondock Saints.
Boondock Saints, where the cat takes himself
Poor
out.
cat.
Yo, that cat got obliterated.
Oh my god, that scene is just.
We have to skip that scene at my house because
my wife, she loves cats, but she laughed her butt off when she saw that scene. So yeah,
mine did not laugh. She did not see the humor.
Oh my god!
But all right. Well, does anybody have anything else they want to throw out there before we start wrapping up? Because it's getting to the point where we should wrap this one up, I think.
It's a fun little discussion tonight, man.
Yeah, you're probably gonna laugh at this one, but another thing they tested on Hollywood Weapons was Rambo gun myths.
Yeah,
and the scene in First Blood Part 2 where it's standing in the jungle with the M60 and just spraying it with one hand. That is plausible.
It is.
I've done it. I've done it several times.
Targets doing that.
So was the pinning? Didn't they prove the pinning the guy to the tree with the arrow too through his head?
Yeah,
I think they got that one done too.
Yeah, one-handing an M60 is not hard at all. At first, it kicks really hard, and it's a little bit, I don't want to say uncontrollable, it's a little bit difficult to control, and then it just smooths right out. Yeah. It's really not that hard to do at all.
Yeah, and you always hear people say, no, nobody could do that. And, well, sure enough, that can be done.
There's a lot of things that Rambo did that nobody really could do, but...
It's Rambo.
But it's Rambo. That's just it. That's like his... whatever that was, 150-pound draw bow with no let off.
He was the best of the best.
Yes, he was.
Yep.
But when I was a kid, I actually came across a copy of the novelization of First Blood Part 2, which I read that long before I ever saw First Blood. But the cool thing is, I mean, if you've ever read the novels, at the end of at the end of First Blood, in the novel, Rambo died. He did not survive. But then that is the foreword of First Blood Part 2 was the author that said, okay, now I know I killed him, but they wanted to make another movie. So I had to change it. Here's another book.
They filmed the death scene.
Did they? Is that on the deleted scenes?
Yeah, but then it's in Rambo 4 in his nightmare scene that he grabs the gun from the colonel and kind of makes the colonel shoot him in the stomach. That's actually in Rambo 4. But yeah, you're right.
Okay. Double A is asking if I've seen Last Blood. Not yet. I need to go watch that. Get it on Redbox or something. I did just recently rewatch the fourth one, and I remember hating that when it first came out, and then I wouldn't watch it for the longest time. But it wasn't as bad as I remembered it being, and I totally missed the ending last time. I didn't remember that at all. So the ending of Rambo 4 when he actually comes home and goes and finds his dad's place. So that was kind of cool. I didn't realize they were setting up Last Blood. I just thought that all of a sudden he's home in the States and has a ranch, but I see what happened there now. So that makes sense. But nope, haven't watched it yet. So, alrighty. Well, we will let everybody say goodnight and give any shameless plugs that they want to give before we wrap things up here, and then we'll go through the list and tell everybody hello and thanks for joining us. So we'll just kind of go backwards from how we introduced each other. So Squib, we'll let you have the floor to say whatever you want to sign off with.
Good night.
Good night. All right. Duke Liberty, we will move it over to you.
All right. Again, thanks for having me on the panel. Really enjoyed it. Shot my first video yesterday, doing some editing. So looking forward to starting that up, but really appreciate it. And have a good night. Be safe.
Before I move on, let me just say that I've heard this from a lot of different people, and now I've started kind of saying the same thing. If anybody wants advice on how do you get into doing videos on YouTube, the best advice that anybody can give you is turn on the camera and make the video. It doesn't have to be good. Just start making videos. Eventually you'll figure out what works, what doesn't. You'll start to refine them. And I mean, if you keep those old ones up on the channel, which I have done well, everything that I've ever done, I think is still up if you dig back far enough. Yeah, there's some rough stuff. But I'm not that much more refined now than what I was when I first started just turning on the camera. But yeah, just make those videos and edit them if you can and post them up. And that's really cool. So make sure you get a hold of me with a link to that, and I'll share that over on Facebook and share that around so that we make sure we find that there, Duke.
Much appreciated.
Yeah, you betcha. All right, we will move over to Mr. P11.
All right, man. Appreciate the invite. Thank you very much. Hey, guys, make sure you subscribe to everybody here on the panel this evening. There's lots of great content on their channels. Otherwise, that's about it. I appreciate being here, and I look forward to being on in the future again. So thanks, man.
Awesome. Real quick, Duke, out there in the chat, Kinky wants to know what's the channel. Is it under Duke Liberty now, or what is the channel name?
Duke Liberty is the name of the channel.
Okay. Let me, before I go any further, let me just see if I can find. Yeah, I'm gonna have to dig for you. Probably I can't find it yet because you don't have any videos up, huh? All right, I tell you what, we will any of you that are out there on Facebook, just make sure that you like the Sandhills Shooter Facebook page, and we will I'll share the link to that once Duke gets it to me, because I don't think you can search him right now since there's nothing up there even to find. So
yeah, thank you.
If he says something out there on the YouTube chat, type something out there, they can click the 3 dots next to his name and go right to his channel from there.
That's true. Or if I don't know if you can get to the YouTube chat from where you are, Duke, but if even after this renders on the replay, you can leave a comment, on the video down below it too, and then people will have that too. I think can't you click on people from comments and get to their channel?
Possibly, I don't remember.
I don't know. Oh, there he is, right there.
I believe so.
You
I
can.
believe so. You click on their icon. Yeah.
All you gotta do is click on their icon anywhere inside YouTube, and it'll take you right to their channel.
There we go. I just went to the channel. So let's hit subscribe, and then we're gonna do this. Copy, paste. There we go.
All right. Thanks.
There is the
appreciate that.
Link to Duke's channel right there in the YouTube chat. All righty. Can't wait to see that video. Can't wait to see what happens. He's got 8 subscribers. I would like to see that jump up to at least 20 before the night is over. So let's see what we can do to get Duke Liberty some love. It says 8 on there, but it actually says 4. I still think we can get from 4 to 20 though. I think if everybody on the chat goes and clicks that link and subscribes to Duke Liberty, I think we're going to get you at least over 20 before the night's over.
Yeah, it said 6 when I subscribed.
Okay, well, this is maybe people are jumping up already because I've got TubeBuddy showing the real time and it's jumping up. I think I have to refresh the page for the actual channel header to. Yep, now it's up to 11. I see what's happening. We're already 11. We're over halfway there. We're good to go. All right, let's move right along, and we will move over to Kingpin.
Thanks for having me. I'm glad I could hang out tonight. Had a really good time. Everybody have a good night.
Thanks for being here. All righty. And Mr. White?
Yeah, check out This Week Unloaded, Sunday nights between 8 and 9 p.m. Eastern, over on the Unloaded Media channel. And last night I plugged your show since you weren't able to, since you had left early. So I think I'll plug Kingpin's channel. Go over and look at Kingpin's channel. He's got some cool videos over there. Check out what he's got up.
Very true. Very true. All right. And I think that is everybody. Looks like Travis jumped out. He had to get on the phone, I think. Actually, Travis lasted longer than he normally does with us. So thanks, Travis, for being here. And he did get a chance to sign off. So all of you on the panel, I do appreciate you sticking with me through all of our technical difficulties and jumping over to the new and improved tonight's chat. And all of you out there on YouTube, I do appreciate each and every one of you sticking with us as well, and being able to follow us and come over here and hang out with us. So who'd we have out there in the chat? We had Kingpin doing double duty, Mystic Guns, Calaveras 32 Special was doing double duty for a while, but couldn't hang with us when we switched over, so he didn't actually get to be in the panel, but he was going to be in the panel if we had been able to go live right at 9 when we tried to. Mike was out there, Dangerous Freedom, Grim 90, Duke Liberty doing double duty, Seven Wonders, Patriot in the Dark, Clint Taurus, Trauma Jock, New York Outcasts, Sarge was out there, C4 Defense, Rich White out there and in here, Net Flutter, Kinky Sphincter, Gun Snob, Two Live Moo, Tennessee Gun Guy, Obnoxious One, Orange Man, Obnoxious, Weston Probst, Mad Sexy, Boob Sweat leads to pearl necklaces, Guy That Comments, Armament and Axes, SS Pawn was out there, The Poor Conservative, MM53, ABTC Inc., A Bloke's 2 Cents, Ohio 45 ACP. Good to see you. We got to hang out for a while in Tulsa a couple years ago. Very cool guy. Tom Hires out there. Vanessa Kitty. Ashley at Gunstreamer. Haven't seen you out there in a while, Ashley. Good to have you with us. Hill Climb, Ohio, JB. Ghost was out there. Didn't see Ghost. Gizzard Gary was out there. Ozzy Osbourne. Scott P79. Budget made it in here, even though he's probably the reason why we had technical difficulties, because I think they just bled over through the interwebs over to me. Just kidding. And then we had Cross Country Adventures, which I don't think I've seen Cross Country Adventures out there before. So, and who's that good looking honky? Peter North, porn star. All right. Well, good looking honky. I see you out there too. So thanks for joining us. All of you, on behalf of Travis P11, Squiblo, Duke Liberty, Kingpin, Rich White, Sandhills Sweetheart, and myself, we love each and every one of you. Thanks for being here. God bless you, and get off my lawn.